This is the Misdirected Mark Podcast, a podcast about gaming, game mastering, and entertaining you, our listeners. We are explicit, you have been warned, and I'd like to thank Mike Willard for letting us use his music on our show. Now let's pick up those mics and get on with this thing.
Flying towards a setting sun in a Honda Accord of gold. The AC straining against the funk cause our socks and drawers are old. On the 105 for an afternoon drive, whizzing by the freeway Flora. In the passenger seat is my best friend Pete, a fat man in a fedora.
Breaker 19, this is Draknar the Dark. I was momentarily detained in the hotel entrance, Fatbeard. The valet was trying to charge me an exorbitant fee. It appears we have ourselves a game con.
Yeah, we got ourselves a game con, playing for 4 days straight. We got ourselves a game con, our hygiene if you ain't. We got ourselves a game con, arguing's after fun. And we'll be playing all the night, till the morning sun.
And welcome to the 361st episode of the Misdirected Mark Podcast. My name is Chris.
My name's Phil.
I'm Old Man Logan.
And I'm Senda.
The Queen is in the house.
As part of our annual certification, somebody from Misdirected Mark Management has to come and certify the show.
That's correct. I have to come and make sure that you're still doing it all right. You know,
Are we doing it right?
I mean, it's not like I don't watch it every week. Now I can confirm your setup. So,
Well, there you go.
There we go.
Is this up to your liking, my queen?
yeah, I think it's good.
All hail the
Fantastic.
Queen.
More professional than mine.
By the way, that was GameCon by the Angry Folk Band from the album Once Upon a Tavern. If you're not aware, those are the folks from Happy Jacks.
Yep.
They and Stu Venerable. That is his tune and his band and all those folks over there. The Poxy Bogarts are another one. Check their stuff out. It's great.
Yes, I love that song.
Yeah. Anyways, we're going to talk about convention etiquette this evening, since it's Origins. It's the night before Origins, and all through House Misdirected, the Queen was in the house, and everyone was excited.
Yes.
It didn't rhyme, but
Plus
take
we're
it.
mostly
Syllables.
mostly goofing off.
We're mostly
We'll
goofing
take it.
off.
Yeah.
I mean, we had a 2.5. We set up real quick, way faster than we normally do.
And I left my house at 3:15 this morning.
Oh man!
So,
And it's like 2 hours.
Yeah, but it's only 5 a.m.
Technically,
here.
it's only 6 o'clock in the afternoon for you. It's 6 o'clock the Queen's time
I
right
mean,
now.
no, it's 8 o'clock the Queen's time right
Well,
now.
that's
It's 6
true.
o'clock Mountain time.
Oh, that's right, because the Queen's time is wherever the Queen is.
Well,
Yes,
My
we've
bad.
determined this.
It's 6 o'clock Andy time.
Yeah, it's 6 o'clock Andy time.
Handy time.
Yeah.
I guess we should do one thing before we get into it all. So let's do our one thing. Send it. Tell me your one thing.
So I haven't finished it yet, so nobody spoilers, even though I've read the book. Like, there's just enough differences. I've been watching Good Omens this week.
No way.
And it's so good. And I love every minute of it. And I'm one of those people who has reread that book a million times. So I'm a huge fan, and I can't stop talking about it. I have one episode left. Super excited about it. Yeah. There's nothing else to say about it other than it's amazing.
The spoiler caps are still on. So
I ship Crowley and Aziraphale in the series so hard. Anyway,
good job.
good.
They're
All
quite
right.
they're quite good. And,
They're fantastic.
Michael Sheen and David Tennant, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
They're really
they're
great.
wonderful.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about the book or the show or anything.
Just
but those
watch it,
two
Bob.
actors
Just watch
were
it.
fine choices for the roles that I've seen on the trailers.
Just
Uh-huh.
watch it.
Yeah.
Don't ask questions. Just
I
watch
hear
it.
it's only like 8 episodes.
Six.
Or 6?
Mhm.
Yeah, so
Just
I
watch
can
it.
kill 6
I mean, I've watched
episodes.
it twice. It's really good.
Yeah. The reason I haven't watched it all the way through yet is because I was editing 2 episodes of Pandas to get here, have an episode drop today, get here, and then have an episode drop on Monday when I'm flying back.
So without spoiling anything, my favorite episode of Good Omens was the 3rd one with the 30-minute intro.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah, I mean,
so
just
good.
that sequence of events that happens in that
That's
30
why
minutes.
I ship them so
I
hard.
know, right? It's so adorable. That show
Anyway.
is very adorable in a lot of ways.
Cool. Well, yeah, Chris, why don't you tell me one thing?
Sure. So I've been playing a video game called The Pillars of Eternity. So if anybody didn't know, Baldur's Gate 3 just got announced, which looks amazing because it's a bunch of mind flayers invading Baldur's Gate. There's even a picture of the screen with the mind flayer destroyer ship that it's basically a giant aboleth in the sky with tentacles. Like, and there's like a mind flayer, like in the trailer that they made, there's a human being that turns into a mind flayer in the alleys of Baldur's Gate. It's really good.
That's because it had the worm in
it.
its ear.
It had the little tadpole thing in its
Yeah.
head and changed over, but it changed rapidly. It usually takes a lot longer,
Right.
according to the lore. But the Pillars of Eternity is very much in the style of the old like Baldur's Gate 1, Baldur's Gate 2, Icewind Dale games.
Oh, I like this.
It is fantastic, and if you don't know what that is, it's the isometric third-person down. It's real-time combat, but you can hit the spacebar to pause it and tell your characters what they should be doing, and you can like program AIs and things like that. And it's essentially a Dungeons and Dragons Baldur's Gate game, but they like changed all the names of the spells and everything. Like, oh no, I know what that is. Like, there's like ray of, instead of scorching ray, they call it like ray of fire or something like that.
When I was I played Baldur's Gate when it first came out, and foolishly let the crazy wizard. I say crazy. I insane. I think it was. You know which one I'm talking about.
He is
like
actually
he is actually insane.
Unbalanced.
Yes.
Yeah.
I put the AI on aggressive.
Oh no.
And then it fireballed the party and killed everyone.
Yeah.
Because it was like, I'm dropping fireball, and the half the party was in the radius and murdered all of them.
Oops.
And I was like, well,
as you do.
I'm like, well, no more AI script for you, and I'll use the space bar to do turn by turn.
So would you say, Chris, that they filed the serial numbers off the D&D stuff?
Yeah, they totally filed the serial numbers off.
That's
the
not a
D&D stuff.
callback
Good
to a
callback.
previous episode.
Good callback. Can I just insert an aboleth in the sky with tentacles?
Yeah,
because I
just
really
totally
thought that when you
yes.
said it, and I just
Nice.
didn't want to interrupt you.
In the sky
I smell
with
a song
tentacles.
parody coming.
Oh man. You know, this is the one thing I'm sad about. I tried really hard for like 3 weeks to come up with a song parody for Origins, and I couldn't come up with anything.
No, I just literally ran out of time, but I've made games. We got games.
Yeah, we got games. We have
got
plenty of
games.
activities and games for the Mr. Actor Mark
Yeah,
Extravaganza.
it's true.
Unfortunately, there will be no singing this year.
Well, not any planned singing.
Not any planned singing. I'm sure we'll be
You
having
never know.
impromptu
Singing
singing.
might break out.
It happens.
There's definitely stuff. There's definitely prizes.
There's stuff and prizes.
Yeah.
Is the flash mob ready?
I don't know. I don't organize flash mobs. Flash mobs are strange. Anyways,
Right in the middle of the Origins floor.
oh, that would be, especially on Saturday, that'd be a bad idea. Don't, if you're planning a flash mob for Saturday at Origins, don't. Just don't. It's a
do
bad
it.
idea.
Yeah.
That's part of our convention etiquette tips that I didn't have written down.
No
Yeah.
flash mobs.
No flash
Oh,
mobs.
that's a good
No
tip.
flash mobs.
Yeah.
But for those who are wondering, and the name of that game is The Pillars of Eternity. It was on sale on Steam. It was like $14.
Nice.
So it's what you do when your back is all messed up and you can't do anything else.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, it's
You
fair.
just play video games from your bed. Let's see. What are we doing next? Phil.
My one thing, I spent the weekend in Atlanta at the Blade Show, the largest knife convention, I don't know, in the US or something.
Knives.
I went with my dad, right? So as I think most people know, my dad, two-time Forge and Fire champion. This was his first year as
2-time?
yeah, because he had to win the first round,
Oh, okay.
and then he won the championship. So he is technically a two-time Forge and Fire winner and tournament champion. Anyway, so I went with him, and it was really funny because it's a convention. So while the subject matter was completely alien to me, it is a convention. There's a long line to get your badge at will call, and there's people trucking around with backpacks and water bottles. So the first day, my dad did not take a water bottle. And I was like, okay. I'm like on our way out the second day, I handed him a water bottle from the hotel room, and I'm like, keep this with you, fill it up along the way. Rule 1 for con, stay hydrated. But the rest of it was very much con-like. Just, it's a little different because I was like, well, Dad, what else do we do? Because I know what we do at a game convention, right? We play games, go to a seminar, whatever, but it's mostly like hanging out, talking to other bladesmiths and things like that. So anyway, I went. It was a lot of fun. They did a thing where two of the hosts from the show. So if you've watched the show before, Ben Abbott, who's the host all the way on the right, he was there, and so I got to meet him. And then Doug Makeda was there. He's the one, this blade will kill. He showed up on Saturday, and he put out the word. He wanted all of the Forge and Fire contestants to meet on this big staircase so that he could take a picture with them. And I'm like, okay, well, I've met 10 or so Forged and Fire guys so far. there were like 100 guys on this. I mean, some women too, but it is mostly a sausage fest for that show. Like 100 people on the staircase, and I told my dad at the last minute, I'm like, listen, I'm going to use your star power right now. I want to meet Doug. Yeah. Like make this happen. So he did. He went up and introduced me to Doug, and so it was really neat. But it was fun. Like, it was totally a con, but it was totally not like the stuff I know about a con. So what I do know now is, though, I'm going to get a Spyderco folding knife. That's for sure. Chris is leaving. He's done with the show for tonight.
That's okay, because we still have a Bob.
Yeah, that's right. Anyway, knife show, total blast.
Total blast.
And it was fun watching my dad get recognized by people and stuff like that. So it was neat. Bob, tell me before Chris gets back, or tell me really quick so that Chris is not here and we can just do whatever we want for the next segment. Do your one thing.
Wait, I give you permission to do whatever you want for the next segment anyway.
My one thing is
I now overrule him.
packing cubes. Packing cubes are the shit, yo. They are.
You, me, and him, all of us in the packing cubes.
I'm a convert.
Yeah.
I'm a convert.
Yeah.
I packed my stuff yesterday for this convention, and I'm like, oh, let's see what I can fit in this thing. I'm like, wow, look at this.
Yeah. And then when you look at your bag, like when you open it up, you're like, ooh,
how neat and
tidy.
How
organized this thing
it's
is.
Like all gridded. I'm like, oh, I know all of this is here and all of this is here and that's there, and like just grab the one that has the stuff in it with the stuff.
It's fabulous.
It's very good.
Mine aren't actually even compression cubes. Mine are just cubes.
So you don't have the second zipper.
Yeah.
Okay.
And technically, actually, they're not even cubes. They're rectangles.
Well,
and they're flat. But yeah, the point is that they are zippered compartments that you put your stuff into.
Would you say they are pouches for your suitcase?
They are pouches.
I have created a monster.
You have.
Pouches is the word.
Oh, this teasing Phil about his pouches.
You can, but you all know it's super useful.
I know.
Pouch is the word.
I know. I've been going like, shit, I need more pouches.
We
are explicit.
I came back.
Been warned.
You came back.
Chris came back.
I mean, my throat's sore. I don't know why. It just hurts.
Because.
All right. Well, anyway, we did our one things.
Cool. Let's do some announcements then.
Yeah, the announcements.
So I only have one. Does anybody else have any before I get into mine?
Nope.
Cool. So the Queen City Conquest events are live right now, and I wanted to talk a little bit about the misdirected mark encoded gem type events that are going on.
Cool.
Although I will talk more about the other gem members next week, because there's a lot of them that I didn't include here. I'm only talking about the ones that are open, because a lot of them are already closed, like Splinter City. Like that game's full.
Sorry, there weren't a lot of spots.
Yeah. So Tim Jones, our graphic designer for Encoded Designs, he'll be manning the video game area all weekend. So that's a thing that's going on. On Friday, there's going to be a board game block. In fact, there'll be several board games blocks with Bob, where you can play a variety of encoded dice and card games. Like what? So for instance,
Relic Hunters, Circle of Six, most likely, unless something really weird happens, the new version of Bot Battle Bedlam will be ready to go.
Yay!
What else? There may be another one. It's possible. It's possible that an alpha version of the Continental will be ready.
The Continental.
My John Wick card game with the serial numbers filed out. And that'd be John Wick the movie series with Keanu Reeves, not John Wick the game designer.
Correct.
That works.
Know your John Wicks.
Yes, know your John Wicks.
Know your John Wicks. I am not going to be Patient Zero for Origins. I'm not sick. My throat's just a little sore. I swallowed a pill wrong earlier.
Ooh.
I was taking some Aleve for my back.
Yep.
Because my back.
Get that phantom feeling in there.
Yeah.
So yes.
So there's also Love and Justice by Andy Fox from 3 to 5 and from 7 to 9 on Friday. There's a slot or two left for Blue Europa from 6 to 10 with Phil. That's H2O. Senda's running some Turning Point from 6 to 10 on Friday also. And if you're up for some D&D AL goodness, Sean Merwin is running a game from 6 to 10. In fact, I think it's the only game left that's open that if you want to play with Sean. All the rest of them are full. Let's talk about some more stuff. So there's more board game blocks with Bob on Saturday from 9 to 11 from 3 to 5. In the Shadow of the Graceful Moon is a D&D inspired game with John Arcadian.
Interesting.
From 1 to 5 p.m. And then there's the Festival of Sausages and Fairy Lights from 1 to 5 with Andy Fox. Now, it's important to note that this game is is related very much to the what was the name?
It's just set in the little village of Gnome Stew.
Yeah, of Gnome Stew.
STU.
Which was
Stew.
that game was that you played was called
The Witch is Dead.
The Witch is Dead. So
Yeah.
if you look up The Witch is Dead and you listen to what's going on there, it's that setting.
Well, it's just the setting. I mean,
Yeah.
you don't have to have heard it to play the game.
Yeah.
Andy will tell you it is definitely her style of D&D, which means it is narrative forward.
Yep. Story forward stuff. Yep.
Yep.
There's another H2O Blue Europa game from 1 to 5 with Phil. That's got like a slot left in it, I think, or
Yep.
two.
I wanted to make sure that the newest one had a couple runs.
Mm-hmm. And then another Turning Point with Senda from 1 to 5.
I'm just running all the turning points this year. All of it. Everywhere.
I will actually be submitting another game that I'm running from 10 till 2 in the morning on Saturday. So, and maybe some board games also. I plan on picking up Planet while we're at Origins.
Oh, the
The game
12-sider thing?
with the 12-sided, and I
Yeah,
will
that
be.
thing's
I'll try to have some hour slots to show that game off during the convention because that game is hot. It's awesome. Have you heard about this game?
Mm-mm.
So Planet, it's a game where
You didn't watch the show last week? Where Chris explained the whole thing on the show last
you
week.
have a
Did I
dodecahedron
miss
that's about
that?
it's
Yeah,
about the
What
size
was
of
I
your.
doing last week on Tuesday? Sorry, carry on.
I think you were putting Xander to bed.
Oh, that's probably what happened.
Probably when I was talking about it.
Mhm.
You have a dodecahedron that's about the size of your fist,
Mhm.
and each side is a magnetic thing on it. And what you're doing for every turn is that you are drafting these tiles that fit on the dodecahedron magnetically that are biomes. And you're trying to connect biomes to either have like the most lakes, the biggest lake, or whatever to attract animals, to evolve animals on your planet to score points.
Interesting.
It's really fun, especially for like the first 7 or 8 rounds, because you're like putting these on there and it's a good time, and then you get to those last 5 rounds, and you're like, where do I stick this thing? As you're trying to spin this 12-sided object,
Yeah.
figuring out the best place to put it to evolve the animals onto your planet. So it plays in about 30 to 45 minutes. It's this wonderful game. It's from Blue Planet. I highly recommend picking it up. I actually convinced a coworker of mine to pick it up, and he brought it to work, and we played it a couple of times. And him and his girlfriend, they love it. Mo Tusino, the tabletop bellhop, he raves about it. I can't wait to get my hands on it. You can order it right now, I think, but I'm gonna pick it up at Origins. All right, so that's what's going on with that. So I suppose we should now get to our features segment, which is convention etiquette. Are you ready for the workshop?
Spritz.
Workshop! I'm sorry. Was I?
Did
ahead
you
of
jump
my-
the? You ready? You ready to do it? You ready to do it? Come on! You want to do it? You ready?
Okay.
Okay.
All right,
Come on, Sundance. Here we go.
Did you just call me Sunday?
Workshop!
Workshop!
Be good at conventions!
better
Don't be a dick! Be nice
nice.
to people! Workshop!
Don't
I
suck.
I also want to keep my voice for the convention, though.
Yeah, I was taking it easy.
Phil's done that so many times.
I feel like I need vocal training.
The smart money would be to record once and then put it into the.
No.
No,
'cause
but
it-
this is bespoke for every
I
topic.
know.
Yeah, every episode
Yeah,
has
it changes
special...
it different. It changes it
I
every
know.
time.
Yeah, you can't. No, you can't.
But you
No.
don't want him to roach his throat, you know.
Well, normally I just have like a little something with me when I'm doing it, but I'm all right. I'm okay.
He's only half dead. It's
All
fine.
right, I'm good.
So
Be
convention
mostly dead.
season is now in full gear with Origins just tomorrow,
Tomorrow.
and QCC and Gen Con later this summer. Since it's the season, we thought we might talk about some tips on how to be your best at a convention.
Yeah. So I've noticed this thing where you guys do convention tips every year. So are we just going to talk about the same tips again?
Yes, and yet things like the incident at the UK Games Expo last week keep happening. So let's get to sharing some of our best advice. But first, Phil, do we have a definition for a good convention goer? Now, wait.
Oh boy.
Behold, you are in the presence of Definition Panda.
Todd Crapper, you're the best. Thank you so much for that bumper.
Wow.
Wow.
I love it.
It was glorious.
So the answer is, yeah, you know what? There is a good definition for being a good convention goer, right? A good convention goer is doing a couple of key things. They're having a good time, but not at anyone's expense, right? So they're not being disruptive. They're respecting space, right? Whether that's somebody's personal space, whether that's space at a table, whether that's maneuvering through the hall, right? they're also making everyone at the convention feel welcome and safe, which means that you have nice manners, that you're not threatening or not aggressive acting, right? Overtly or inadvertently. And I think in a lot of cases, inadvertently is really where there's a problem. We're going to talk a little bit about that tonight. You are taking care of yourself, right? So if you go to a con and you're not sleeping, not eating,
this motorcycle. It's
my
nice
gang,
outside.
my gang is coming. My gang's showing up.
Yeah. What is it? Is it the devil's
Devil's
plumbers?
Devil's
Yeah.
Plumbers are rolling up.
Local
The
666.
local 666,
Yeah. So anyway, if you're not taking care of yourself, it's going to spill over to other people, right? So if you don't eat or don't drink, like, you're going to break one of these other things, right? You're going to wind up acting inappropriately or angry or something like that. Okay. And then special caveat, if you are GMing, it means that you're also prepared to run your games. And I use the word prepared as in whatever it is you need to get to the table, right? So that's going to vary. We're not talking about prep because we could get in, we have whole shows on that, but you're prepared enough for you. Okay. You're not like strolling in like, oh shit, I got a game, like sitting down at the table and be like, oh wow, you're all here, blah, blah, blah. Oh, I don't have any character sheets. Like, everybody take out a piece of paper, right? Like, that's not doing a good job. So, okay. So those are our 4 things.
Right, and there are definitely some things that can go wrong when that stuff doesn't happen, right? So people might be rude, which stinks when you're at a convention full of people and people are just being not good. You can make people feel unwelcome or not safe, etc. When we talk about that UK Expo game, woo, okay, yeah. But you can do it on a smaller scale too, right? Like you can do that on a smaller scale and still, cause issues for people. You can disrupt other people's activities, right? Like you could be the loud, obnoxious one who's interrupting someone else's game without necessarily noticing it. Or you might end up running subpar or bad games / event, right? And of course, that's kind of a list of like high level things. We could dive into those for dozens of individual examples, but we'll kind of leave it. I think you guys probably get the general idea.
Mm-hmm. So why don't we now share some advice about being good humans at conventions? We're going to do that by sharing our best advice for a number of different roles that you may have while you are at a convention. So Bob, what's our first thing that we're going to talk about?
We are going to talk. Oh, God.
Am I misdirecting Mark word scrambling here?
No, the
No.
computer flipped me the bird for a second. So what are our tips for being a good GM at a convention?
Yeah. And just so people know, we've set an order for us to talk. So I'm just going to jump in because I'm at the top of the list on this one. My best tip is prep your materials in advance. And I don't necessarily mean like your like what your prep is for the game, but I really mean like having all your stuff together for running a game. So if you're running a game like a Powered by the Apocalypse game, you have printed out playbooks. You have printed out basic move sheets. You have any other handouts, props, all of those things. Like all of those things are together so that you can get there. Then you arrive early, set up all your stuff smoothly. It gives a nice confidence to everyone who's coming to play your game, because if people don't know who you are, right, and they're sitting down at this table because they just, they saw the event and it looked cool, but they don't know who you are, you look like you got your shit together, right? I see that Bob's already said in the chat room, laminate, right?
Yep.
You absolutely can laminate, and I do laminate some things. I don't laminate others. So anything that I'm going to throw away, right? So playtest stuff doesn't get laminated. But like, for instance, now that Hydra Hackers is out, I have laminated move sheets for that, right? So those just go right out on the table. So that's, I think that's going to be my tip for this year is have your stuff prepped, no wrinkled papers, no 4 character sheets when you should have had 5. Like, do a little work to get all that stuff together. Make yourself, I have little Mylar folders, and each game goes into the Mylar folder, and this way I just take the one to the table, open it up, and everything's right there. And I know because I make yours.
Yeah, I know, which is great, because I'm like, oh, I don't really have to think about this anymore. It's lovely. But the thing that my big tip is actually just, I guess it kind of ties a little bit more in with safety in terms of running games, but be upfront with the content and the feel and what the goal of your game session is that you're running, so that people know what they're getting into, right? And that's both in your description of the game, right? And it's also in when they sit down at the table, because it's really easy when they sit down at the table to just be like, cool, this is a magical girls game, like who here has experience with that? Cool, here are some of the primary tropes that you can run into, like this is a game about love and friendship and teen girls kind of growing up. It's going to be positive, it's going to be uplifting, you're going to defeat the bad guy, right? Like I can just make all of that clear in about 30 seconds at the beginning, and hopefully just, you know, smooth the path all the way through. And then the other tip is just a very general one, which is to have extra supplies, right? Because somebody's always going to forget a pencil, or you know, forgot their dice bag that morning in the hotel room, whatever it is, right? So have enough stuff that you could cover one or two people besides you.
I because you know I'm a little touchy about my dice.
Yeah,
So
you have guest dice.
I do. I actually have a bag of guest dice.
Uh-huh.
Like these dice, and they're nice dice. They're not crappy, but they're just like not mine. I mean, they are mine, but they're not my current ones. Yeah.
The U dice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So by all means, if somebody needs dice, like I'm like, oh sure, I have some in my GM kit.
I just pour my dice out and throw them across the table with people. I'm like, here, go ahead, use these.
Right.
I track mine pretty close though, because I've got some nice like customs in there now that I don't want people making off
See,
with.
that's what I'm saying.
I don't have any attachment to my dice. We all know this.
Chris is like very zen, no attachment to anything.
That's not true. I'm very attached to you folks.
Aw.
Aww.
Yay.
Tell us your tips.
Oh yeah, I should do that. So my big one is to be personable. Like you should smile, look like you're having a good time. Introduce yourself. There are probably going to be strangers at your table that you might not know. Ask people for their names. Like be a leader, because you have to sort of like move these things along socially.
And be a host,
yeah,
right?
be
I
a
mean, that's a
host.
lot of what you're talking about.
Definitely hosting
Yeah,
a
being a
game.
host.
It helps put people at ease, lets them come into the game and get more comfortable with it quicker, because you only have a limited amount of time. It's a con game, so it's probably a one shot. So
Yeah.
I like to think that the three things that we put together here are really what I think is a really smooth way to get your game started,
Mhm.
right? Like all your stuff is out on the table. As people are sitting down, you're connecting with them, smiling, you're getting names, you're giving out your name, right? And then you're immediately conveying the tone of the game, like you're moving everyone into the game. Like this is so I think what we did was we gave 3 great tips for getting yourself going.
Get the game
Yeah.
started. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
And
after-
honestly, I'm
Go
sorry. I just wanted to say that there aren't very many things for me, honestly, off the top of my head, that will pull the joy out of the game before it gets started than to sit down at a table and the GM is surly, mean-looking grump who's
Right.
just like, ugh. Like if you're not happy and like, hey, let's get ready to play this game, if you're all, like, I'm not going to feel like I'm about to have fun.
Well,
or even if they're just quiet and not really like engaging.
Yes. I mean, like, for instance, super introvert Phil, right? Like, I actually do make sure I go out of my way when people sit down not to be very withdrawn, right? Because that's my nature. So the first thing I usually do is I'm setting up, and I usually tell people, like, just give me, like, 2 seconds to put everything out. And then, like, as soon as everything's out, I'm like, hi, I'm Phil, right? And then, like, I but it is a thing I have to actively do. Like, it's a thing Chris naturally does, but it's a thing I have to actually be like, oh yes, like say hi and smile. So I agree. And the other part I think goes to self-care, right? So if you're running a game, right? If you're running a game, make sure that you've either eaten before the game, you have snacks in your bag, right? Make sure you got a water bottle with some water, right? Like, because if you're listening to this and you're like, well, why wouldn't you be happy running a con game, right? But maybe you stayed up till 3 a.m. hanging out with your friends and chatting, and your voice is kind of roached, and it's Sunday, right?
Maybe you're the idiot who said, sure, I'll run an 8 a.m. game on Sunday of Gen Con.
Sure, right?
Yeah.
Like,
and maybe, you were out drinking with the Contessa folks until 2 a.m. the night before.
Right.
These things happen. You just gotta,
I feel like it's like a personal story that actually
it's
happened.
a little specific.
A little specific.
Yeah, that might have happened.
I've done that before too.
Yeah.
So there is a thing about what Chris is saying is like, sometimes you're just naturally happy to be there, but sometimes like you got to play through the pain on this, right? Like you got to be like, okay, I was up, I'm bleary-eyed, whatever. I got myself a coffee on my way over to the event. I'm going to just drink this coffee while you're making characters and rock and roll.
I'll be honest with you, the older you get, the harder it is to mitigate that stuff.
It is.
Yep.
So you have to think ahead.
Yes.
Right. Well, you do. So
Yeah.
no kidding. Like I, in picking out the times when I run games, like I strategically pick mine in the afternoon because I pick them between lunch and dinner. So I have eaten lunch and I come to sit down and play. And then by the time I start to get hungry again, I'm done running and it's time to go to dinner. I don't like, and I've done it a few times where I've run games through a meal.
Yeah, no, it's
And
not-
those are
not
really,
fun.
they're a mess,
They're hard.
right? I do keep snacks in my bag. Do you have snacks in your?
I will talk about. I
Oh,
will
okay.
talk about
That's one of your
food.
tips. Okay.
One of my last tips is talking about
Okay.
food.
Awesome.
you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. So anyway, so yeah, I think that all ties together, right? Like, and it's really important. I think people are sitting down at the table, and I say this especially like if you're not a dude, right? So if you're marginalized, sitting down at the table sometimes can be, and Senda, I think you can speak to this, right? Like there's a moment where you kind of eye up, like, is this going to be a table like I think that you're going to feel comfortable at,
Yeah.
right? So
Or is this going to be another one of those tables that takes one look at me and is like, "Oh, honey, let me show you how to role play," and I'm like, "Actually, I'm running this
actually I wrote this game.
game."
Strangely enough, that's actually one of my tips for later too. Is be aware of who you are and how people will relate to you.
Yeah.
Cool. I will.
'cause- yeah,
We'll
talk-
stop.
Yeah,
we'll
we'll-
stop. and
We'll
let-
stop, but that's excellent. Yes. Yeah.
It's a thing that a lot of people don't think about, especially
Absolutely.
people that look like me and you,
Mhm.
Phil
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Bob.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. So good. Let's roll.
Carrying on.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Question 2: what are your tips for being a good player? Oh, sorry. There's a thing I wanted to mention because we talked about our 3 tips.
Yeah.
How they were good about getting things started. The reason I think it's important to get started well is because the rest of it is just running a game.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because once you've made that initial connection, you're prepped and you're upfront with setting everybody at ease. Because what Senda's stuff will actually help set people at ease too, because they'll have an expectation set.
Mhm.
And then the personal thing will let people understand that you are, the personal and prepared will let people know that you are ready to do this thing for them at this event that they have spent time and money to come to.
Absolutely.
So then all of those things together will give you a nice foundation. Then you're just running a game after that.
Yeah, and after that, then all of our other advice.
Yeah.
Actually,
Yeah, if you want to know how to run a good game, there's this other show on our network called Pandas Talking Games.
And there's the bonus experience.
and there's the show.
360
And then
episodes
there's
of
the rest of
Misdirected
this
Mark.
show, but whatever. I just had to plug mine first.
There's some advice on this network about
Maybe
how to
a
run a
little
good
bit.
game.
Maybe a little bit.
In fact, there's
Just
a whole show where at least 2 seasons of nothing but how to run one-shots and campaigns.
yeah,
Mhm.
it's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
True facts.
Cool.
All right, now let's do question 2. So what are your tips for being a good player at a convention? Phil, go ahead.
I have no idea how I wound up second on this one again. Anyway, when I'm a player, have extra stuff in your bag, right? So when you sit down, not only like have your stuff together, but like I always have markers. I always have extra index cards to hand out for name tents.
Mhm.
Like if the GM doesn't have that, like if the GM isn't already doing that, I'm folding up index cards with a marker and handing them out to everyone so we can do, so we can go ahead and do our tents. I have extra dice, extra pens, pencils, snacks. Like I have stuff in my bag so that if other players need, it doesn't have to pull on the GM, because as we know, the GM's doing like 8 different things at once, right? So,
Yes,
it's
8.
if you can pitch in.
Yeah, be a helpful player.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Mine is actually something that we've ended up talking about a bunch recently on Pandas, which is to take the hook, right? Because when we are talking about being a player at a convention, given that everything else went right, in terms of having a good description on the game that you signed up for, and in terms of sitting down at the table and not being super creeped out by whoever's running the game and being like, never mind, and leaving or something like that. The anticipation that I have from there is that you sat down at this table to play this game and you knew what it was. So take the damn hook and play the game. Don't make me work for it, because we only got, if it's me, potentially we only have like 2 hours to get through this entire story. So like, chop people, take the hook. Don't make me work for it.
Right, when the mysterious floating fortress appears above the town.
Right,
Yeah.
go check it out. Don't
Okay.
be like, a mysterious floating fortress. Well, I guess I'll go water my crops.
Yeah, I'm not really into this go rescue the kidnapped prince. I think I want to go and rob the local merchant.
Didn't it say in the description that you'll be rescuing the prince?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, that's my point exactly. So
No,
being
I
a
was
player,
I was being
Yeah.
take the hook.
just
Take
yeah.
the
It's
hook.
also
Even if it's not strong, just do it.
Just
because
do it. It's not worth.
It-
It's a con game. It's a one shot.
It goes along with the whole like don't be a dick thing.
Yeah.
it's a huge
Oh, you
relief.
stole my thing.
It's a huge relief for the GM,
Sorry,
right?
sorry, Bob.
He stole your thing.
It's
I
a-
didn't mean to.
It's all
Dude,
right.
don't be a dick.
I was totally a dick. I'm sorry, Bob.
It's
I'm sufficiently chastened by the queen. The queen has held court and made her ruling.
You should have brought a crown.
I think the thing about taking the hook is that it I'm trying to get you guys out of this.
There's a panda head over there you could
I
wear.
could put the panda head on top of my head like
Yeah,
a
yeah,
crown.
you totally could.
Oh my gosh, Phil,
It's
please
heavy,
get us
don't do
out.
No, the thing about taking the hook is it's a huge relief for the GM, right? Because it's like Chris said, once the game starts, you're just running the game.
Uh-huh.
But if anyone like resists the starting of the game, like you're just kind of like
battle.
yeah, you're just like it's a battle. Or you're trying to steer things. Like it's really good to just do it. Like it doesn't even matter if it's plausible, feasible, realistic, whatever adjective you want to stick to it. Don't just like Senda said, take it
the hook.
Yeah.
Just
and
take
then
it.
go have fun, and then it'll have fun.
Right.
Hopefully.
There's a couple of things in the chat room we should talk about.
Yeah. What do you got?
So take the damn hook goes to get to the fucking monkey.
Yeah.
So if
Yes.
you're a game
Yeah.
master, don't you know.
Yes, on the game master side, right?
Yeah.
Don't make it forever.
Don't
right?
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
start them.
I was gonna say beat around the bush, but I just opened myself up to a lot of terrible jokes.
Yep.
So
Gonna
We'll
go
just
that
leave
gonna
that
go that
right
way
there.
again?
no,
Yeah.
I said I was going to, and then I mentioned it. Now I'm saying we should stop.
Okay. Carrying on.
Carrying on. Also, a thing I
Amazing.
forgot to mention earlier: if you're game mastering a convention game, it's okay in the middle of your game or some point during your game to be like, "Is everything going the way? Is everybody having a good time? Is everything going okay? Is there anything I can do to shift this to make it more enjoyable or more what we thought it would be?" There's a thing that you can do.
Chris is good like that. Chris always does that.
Yeah, Blake Ryan mentioned it
Yep.
earlier. That's why I brought it up. Involve other players in scenes. Like that's to me, that's a thing to do as a player. That's just being a good player and also being a good player to convention. Being a good player anywhere really. Be gracious with your RPing, which means work to set people up, give people space to talk, play off of them, don't spotlight steal, all that stuff. Don't be an alpha player, or at least use your alpha player powers for good.
Yeah, use your powers for good, then
Mhm.
it's fine if you're an alpha
Well,
player.
use the vampire rule.
Yeah.
If you're an alpha player, use the vampire rule.
Well,
When you're asked.
I mean, there's that, but sometimes if you were always waiting to be asked, people are shy and don't understand some of that stuff. There are ways to take moments to
Well, you can ask for permission then.
correct,
You
right?
can be
That's how
hey,
you do it.
Is everybody okay if I?
Or even just play in like with a suggestion, and
Yeah.
then if they take the suggestion, then you can continue to play off that. It depends on like what kind of game you want to, what kind of game is being presented. Like if it's everybody's really playing in character,
Mhm.
then you don't want to outside of character break the flow.
Yeah, absolutely. You also don't want to do the thing where you're just like, without being asked, be like, see, what you want is.
Yeah,
this
don't do
thing.
yeah,
that.
don't do
Like,
that.
don't reach
That's
over and
never,
point. Right.
never touch someone else's character sheet.
Right. Like if you're leaning over to school someone on like, well, the thing you really want to use is
Yeah,
this thing right here.
Back the
That's
fuck up.
you don't
Yeah.
need to side seat
That's
drive
the-
somebody's character
That's
for
the
them.
bad alpha player.
That is the bad alpha
That
player.
is the bad alpha player. Don't be that alpha player.
The good alpha player would be putting yourself in a position and being like, somebody help me.
Yes.
That's how I play Kender.
I mean, that's how Kender are.
Don't.
Mhm.
That's going to spill into a whole
I
show.
know, but
Yeah.
that's a. I know I
also,
won't be here next Tuesday, so you can't do that show.
Also, do the personal thing. Introduce yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Do that. Yes, I've seen people do that where they sit down and not say a word. Right? They just like sit down and wait for their character sheet. And it's like,
Now, if it's one of those super shy people that doesn't find it very easy to open up, you can try and bring them along. Like, hi, I'm so and so. Who are you?
That's the way that you do it.
yeah.
But then that's the GM part.
Or player.
Or player.
You can go player
Or
to player on
you
that
can
one.
go player to player. Yeah.
The-
So
the
sorry.
strange thing is if you are one of those shy people, remember there's probably a bunch of other shy, introverted people around you too. It's okay. They're your people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I will say this one's not on any of the lists, but I'm going to bring it up. If you are going to a table as a player with one or more of your friends, and not everyone at the table are friends, try not to go overboard with the inside jokes.
Yeah.
Because you're only making those other people feel like
more and more
they're
like
disconnected.
outsiders.
Mhm.
Yeah.
If Chris, Senda, and I sit down at a table, like I have to like not like hit a whole bunch of inside jokes while these, you know, two other people are like, apparently you all know each other. Like,
Yeah.
right. Be like, oh, you know what? I got a great plan. We should do that thing like the time when we played that game, like in Dungeon World, right? We should do that thing.
You don't have to say that.
Right? Like then the other
Don't say
people are
that,
just
yeah.
lost. Right.
Yeah.
So that would be the other one is, don't like actively work if you're with friends, not like to be inclusive and pull people in.
So Bob, what did I say that you were gonna say?
Yeah, so we've hit it. Don't be a dick. Like, just don't be a damn dick. It's not a hard concept to get through.
You say that.
I know it shouldn't be a hard concept, and yet
it is.
And yet,
it's a very generally.
Every time there's a convention, someone's a dick.
Someone is a dick.
So
big.
for instance, don't touch somebody's character sheet.
Yeah.
Don't touch someone else. Their person.
Don't touch anybody else.
Without asking.
Don't move your seat next to the pretty girl.
Oh god.
Oh yeah, that's creepy.
That's
Don't do that.
happened at
Don't
games.
remove the character sheet from someone's hands and say, "Oh, you did this wrong. Let me fix it for you."
Don't do that. I mean, those are some pretty. I mean, some of them. I'd like to say those are some pretty extreme things, but
they sound egregious. But we know that they happen.
I know you'd like to. I know for every one of these where you're like, "That's ridiculous," but like, nope, that's real.
Yeah. And great point by Seven Rev, who I don't recognize the tag, the handle.
Isn't that Macklin?
I don't.
Oh,
recall,
is
honestly.
that Ryan fucking Macklin?
If that's
from
Ryan
the
fucking
internet?
Macklin,
He's
then-
legendary.
Yeah.
But
yes, there you go. Also, regarding not being a dick, learn the art of apologizing earnestly.
Yes.
Like if you do something that you didn't really intend to do, and you're like, "Oh shit," apologize.
Right, because so the thing about not being a dick is like all of us fuck up sometimes.
We do.
Like it's
People
inevitable. Right?
People are human.
We're human, and there's definitely a part of it where it's just like, okay, we can't expect everyone to be perfect all the time, and having that expectation is both unrealistic and harmful. But when you do something wrong, just own up to it and
own it,
like,
apologize for it.
apologize honestly, and like hopefully we can all just move on.
And if somebody else does something wrong, be gracious enough to give them the chance to
apologize.
apologize and then proceed forward.
Yeah.
The phrase that I particularly like, if you have to, like if you need to correct someone, is that we don't do that here.
Yeah.
Like that's a nice disarming one, right? It doesn't say like, no, don't fucking do that.
No,
right?
you bad, horrible person.
Right.
It just
No.
says, hey, we don't do that at
We don't
here
do
at
that
my
here.
table. Like,
Right.
yeah.
When I say here, I mean in the universe.
Right, right. But they can interpret it however they want.
But here just means right here at this table. But no, I mean, that's a good way. Like, I mean, if you see someone doing something, right? Like you see the dude trying to move his chair next to, the pretty, like, hey, buddy, we don't do that here.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We don't do that. Like, that's a way to de-escalate something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And making and helping out and doing that from the player position instead of the facilitator position really
Is
helps.
also super
Right,
good,
especially
yeah.
because a
Helps
lot
the
of the time,
facilitator.
especially because a lot of the time, if the GM's in the middle of the game and this shit's going on, they
Mhm.
may or may not see it. Like
Yep.
when you're behind, like when you're on that side of the screen. Like
Yep.
sometimes you see that stuff, sometimes you don't.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're doing 8 other things.
Exactly. Right. You're already doing 8 things. You can't do the one where it's like check to make sure all the players are safe.
Yeah.
So
We're not being dicks.
So we should move on.
Yeah.
We're going to take a break and check out the chat room for some of their insights. But first, I'm going to mention a show on Misdirected Mark, the Gnome Cast. So several of gnomes from Gnome Stew get together and talk about gaming topics and themselves in an effort to entertain you and avoid being thrown in the stew.
I heard there was a Bob sighting on the Gnomecast recently.
Was there?
What?
sweet.
What were you talking about?
We were talking about stuff to keep out of the stew.
Wow,
What
this
the
sounds
hell
like
did we
a
talk
Way to
about?
nail that
Fascinating
topic. Way to nail
topic.
that topic, Bob.
I feel like you
Hey,
just
Ange?
described
Bob,
so
Bob, are
many.
you sure you were on the show?
I'm pretty sure I was on the
Ange,
Gnomecast.
what was Bob on the show for?
I mean,
Or Rob? Was Rob editing it yet?
This one time when I was a youngster, I was on the Gnomecast and we did a show, and it was like 30 minutes long. Okay.
Thanks, Grandpa Simpson.
I don't even know what
Old
to
man
do
yells
with
at
this.
cloud.
Wow.
Wow.
It wasn't-
Everybody doesn't know how to handle that, so hey, chat room.
Yeah.
Guess what? We've got a thing in here. Blake Ryan has a great question. GM is not sharing the spotlight and other PCs are bored. Do you speak up? And if so, how?
Oh yeah, it's
Tricky.
Yeah.
I mean, it's tricky. I mean, so one at a total meta level, you could try saying something. it may or may not go, like, you may piss off the GM.
Yeah.
What is the level of boredom and spotlight hogging, right? Like,
Right.
Well, if the GM's excessively monologuing,
Yeah.
or you've arrived at your game table to find out that the GM's also playing a PC.
well. So, for instance,
And they're not Chris. Don't
Yeah, I
forget.
was like,
Don't forget, Chris and I have argued in the defense of a good GM PC, but that's not this case, right?
So for instance, when I first ran for the Wednesday evening podcast All Stars, we're playing D&D, and you know me, I'm pretty action oriented. I try to keep action moving all the time. They specifically asked me after I asked, like, what can I give you guys more of? Like, give us more space to play.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay. So then I gave them more space to play. Now, as a game master, hopefully you're asking that stuff, like I mentioned earlier, like, what can I do better? But if they are spotlight hogging and there's nothing you can do, you should just speak up. And it's hard, and you might piss somebody off. And you could just get up and walk away. It's just a con game. You're not gonna. I mean, you might hurt somebody's feelings, but like, it's not worth wasting your time.
But you know what? There's also a chance that you might get the gumption to say, yeah, hey, and speak up. And then they could be like, "Oh crap! Totally didn't even realize I was doing that," and it could diffuse the whole thing. And
you got. I mean, being gracious, like, and being understanding is a thing. Like, you always want to go there first.
And there's a thing, and it's just a thing in life in general, right? Which is doing our best to assume positive intent of the people around us, which gives us the opportunity to diffuse that kind of situation without it becoming an accusatory thing. Like, just that's not just like this particular situation. It's just like when something is going wrong, trying to assume that the people who are involved in it going wrong have the best possible intentions so that you can approach them instead of being like, why are you horrible people? Like, why are you a horrible GM stealing the spotlight? That you can be like, hey, like, this is all really cool monologue-y stuff, but like, I just noticed that we have an hour of the game left, and like, do you think that we have enough time to finish everything? Like, what, maybe we can like turn the spotlight back a little bit or something.
If you can do it in character, it's even better.
Oh, it is even better.
Right. So if you can just be like, hey, I walk up to your GM PC, put my arm around the GM PC, and I'm like, awesome speech. You know what? Now we got to go do this.
Yeah.
Right. Like, just steer just
move the game along.
Just move the game along, right?
GM. It's like managing up.
It's
like
it's managing from the bottom.
Yeah.
There you go.
So yeah, if you can do that. Now, Victor's right. Like, if the GM's like totally like, just gone and just doing, like their full on monologue, and you piss them off by saying something, well, then maybe you had to. But I would like to perform a quick ritual on all listeners of the show in the chat room and listening to you guys as well, all the chat room listeners and all our regular listeners.
Are we going to be magic in some way, shape, or form?
Hang on. I'm going to put my hands up like this.
Mm-hmm. This is real good for all the people listening on audio.
Don't worry. I'm describing, right? My hands are up in front of me. I am bestowing on all of you your own personal open door policy.
Yes.
You may at any time walk out of any game you need to walk out of.
Yep.
You do not have to have somebody tell you that. You are empowered by the power of misdirected Mark to just get up and leave. It is okay.
Yeah.
Whether you're not safe, whether the GM's bad, whether players are rude, whether somebody just said something so unbelievably offensive you can't take it, just leave.
Do you see the light?
And if somebody's like, why are you leaving? Just be like, Phil told me I could.
Yeah, and you don't have to be mean about it.
And then
just get up and leave.
Tell them to find me.
Right.
I'll deal with it.
And I think one of the things that came up during this little part of our conversation is that, like, we often live in this culture where we are more than willing to accuse and make things out to be terrible and bad and whatnot. Being a little bit more gracious, being a little bit kinder goes a long way.
Yep. Yeah. There is
Senda brought that point up exceptionally well.
That's that assuming positive.
Yeah. And that is actually really that's really powerful stuff, because it allows you to address something without going hot.
Yeah.
And as soon as, because if you go hot, people get defensive.
Yep.
And then it's all protracted.
Yep. Because the moment they get defensive, it feels offensive to you, and then you get defensive, and then it just dissolves into badness all around.
Amen.
All right, and for those listening, the episode of Gnome Stew I was on was discussing inviting new players to the table.
Oh, you couldn't remember that?
I couldn't remember that.
Old man
Some
brain?
days.
Old person brain?
Oof. No, he's a man. It's old man brain.
It counts.
Yeah.
It counts.
I mean, he's also a person.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
I am an old man person.
I think he's a
He's
person.
old man. He likes human music. Human music is my favorite music.
What's that from?
That's Rick and Morty.
Oh, that's right.
Human music. That's my favorite.
Let's
music.
move on to question 3.
Question 3.
Yes.
Yes. What are your tips on being a good professional at the convention?
All right. So this is for if you are trying to get work or trying to sell your books, things like that, right? Show interest in the people who are talking to you. That is a big thing. There are some times that I can even see that people I've talked to, like that are professionals in the industry, like they have to work up the energy to do that, but they always try to, at least the good ones. If you are being asked things, then you can also turn around and ask them about their work or interests. That is a good way to make a personal connection.
Yep.
Be engaged. It's hard to do that sometimes, especially if you're busy and you have somewhere to go or whatnot. But you can still do that, like by just explaining, like, I have to go somewhere. If you want to walk with me and talk, we can do that. Remember this: if you were doing this as part of your job or even a part-time job or a side gig, like this is part of the work. Doing these things is part of the job.
Yep.
Don't forget that you are on. Usually, especially at conventions, like for the next 5 days, I'll be on.
Yeah.
Yep, me too.
Yep, here we go. I'm ready.
Yep.
Bring it.
Starting really right now.
Exactly.
Yep. Hi, we're on now.
Yeah, I can tell you some of the things that we were talking about and doing earlier are not the things that you will see us doing at the convention.
Right. Yeah, we won't be this ridiculous at the convention. We do that in our safe space.
Yeah, I mean, we might be this ridiculous at the convention at certain points.
At our panel.
Yeah.
At our panel is also our safe space.
Correct.
Yeah.
People know what to expect.
Maybe
from our
Thursday
panel.
night.
Well,
yeah.
Also,
Again, our safe space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But not like
Not in the middle of the floor.
No.
Yes.
No.
What else?
Mine is, which is funny because Ryan Macklin also said the same thing. Mine is know how to say thank you. A lot of people are going to come up to you if you're a creator and thank you for your work, right? They're going to tell you they really enjoyed this thing you made. They like the thing that you did. And there's an instinct, and I'm going to look specifically at Senda, but I've seen plenty of other people do it. There's an instinct to be like, oh, it's no big deal. Like, that's just a thing I do on the side. Like, whatever. Like, there's a thing where you talk down your accomplishment. But
he's looking right at me as he says this.
Right. But if somebody came up to thank you for it, it means something to them. So don't downplay it. Just learn how to comfortably say thank you.
And I really appreciated that you appreciated it.
That's the part that I always include is I not only say thank you, but I say something like somebody will come up and be like, oh, I have never unprepared. Like, it was so great. It helped me so much as a GM. And I will always say something like, thank you. I'm really happy that you were able to get some good advice from it. Right. Or I'm really happy that you had a really good experience running the game. That kind of thing. It takes a little work because there is that thing where we're supposed to be kind of shy about our accomplishments, but it's so much cleaner than just belittling your work. And you should never belittle your work. You should always be proud of your work. And there's a way to do it without being like, well, of course you like it. I'm a fucking genius. Right? Unless that's kind of your shtick, but in most cases, don't.
Yeah,
if that's your
I've
shtick,
blocked those people on Twitter.
Yeah, think about a new shtick.
I've known a few.
I can think of a couple.
Yeah, I can think of a couple, and there's only about one person on my short list where I grant that attitude to.
Yeah.
About one person I can think of.
Yep.
And other than that, I'm a big eye roll if somebody does that.
Only one legendary person.
Oh, I wasn't
wasn't
calling Macklin out. Macklin's actually really humble. He just does that.
Really
he just does that thing in bars where he does that. I'm thinking of somebody else, but I think we all know who it is. Yeah, I think you just think for a few seconds.
Just think about vampires.
It'll
correct.
Just think about what?
Vampires.
Solid New Orleans.
Solid New Orleans. You're the Bert, right?
Okay.
Yep.
You're solid New Orleans.
How's it going, Bert?
Solid New Orleans. Phil Vecchione.
Yep. Okay. Well, I'm gonna steal that mic back. So my tip is to actually be professional, right? So the thing with that is don't create drama. Don't be a cliquey high school teen, high emotional, all the stuff. Just don't do that. Don't create drama. If you're in drama, figure out what's going on, apologize, assume positive intent, all of those other things that we were talking about, right? So basically, if you wouldn't do it at work in an office environment, don't do it at the convention. You can share your excitement, You can welcome everyone. You can be really passionate about the things that you're excited about, the things that you're creating, all of those things. But don't let that ever turn into like, oh, my game is so much better than yours or anything like that, right? Like, just remember that it is a work environment and act accordingly.
One, it's probably not so much better than.
Yeah.
Right. You'll think it is.
If you think it is, it might not be. That's just like, I never like to assume it's better than anything.
And second, I'm just going to SEO this because it's important to constantly remind people, assume positive intent. It just makes everything so much
everything.
better.
But
yeah, so if you have drama stuff happening, then you assume positive intent and you resolve.
Yes.
To tack onto your be professional, right? Like, I'll make this statement. I don't necessarily think it's true for everyone, but like, I don't drink to excess at cons.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Like,
Good idea.
You know that Homer Simpson episode where they have it's like an early one where they have the cocktail party and he imagines himself with the monocle being really charming. And then like,
why are we using that example? Why don't we just use the example of the panel we did a few years ago at Gen Con?
Right. Remember the time we got drunk at a panel? Like that was really unprofessional.
You guys have learned some of these lessons the hard way.
Yeah.
To our credit,
you didn't know how strong that
Joe
was.
Schwick said that had much less alcohol than it did.
That was a lot.
Kicked our asses,
was a
and
lot
you
stronger.
did start arguing with someone in the crowd.
I probably did.
You did. You kind of. I mean, you apologized.
Yeah.
But you bit somebody's head off at one point. But no, that is the thing. Look, I mean, there's a party aspect to this, and not to get overly serious, but some people, not us, but some people have had some professionals have had problems at cons, getting too drunk, too handsy. That's the whole frog gods, like all of that stuff. Like,
yeah, which is a huge problem. So like, if you wouldn't get super drunk with coworkers in an office environment and get handsy with them, don't do it at a con.
And if you would do that at work, don't.
Then maybe you shouldn't, and like rethink your choices.
Wherever you work, don't do that either.
One, if you're going to get handsy with somebody, there should be consent.
Yeah.
Two, it should be
That's
somewhere
not to say you
private.
can't. Right. That's not to say you can't hook up at a con.
Yeah, that's fine.
Don't pressure anyone. Don't use your micro celebrity status.
Yeah, don't do it publicly.
Don't do it publicly. Exactly. Like we're not saying professionals can't
be discreet.
It's okay when everybody's consenting and nobody's like, and when we say consent, right? Enthusiastic
informed consent, and be discreet.
And I have to tack on a thing, because this is definitely a thing. There is a power dynamic in the industry. If you are a professional in the industry and someone is a fan of yours,
or a freelancer who is looking to get work
for you, or is looking to get work, or you run a publishing company and they're trying to get something published, whatever it is, there are power dynamics that many people are not aware of that are constantly in play.
Yeah.
And if you are going to hook up with someone at a con and you want to be professional about it, you have to be aware of that. And you have to know that when you ask that person for consent, that they are in a situation where they feel like they can actually give honest, non-coerced consent. So, like, be really careful about that.
Careful. Like, you're better off not.
Yeah, just maybe just don't, and like maybe some other time that's not at a convention or when they are directly asking you for work or whatever. Like,
or maybe build a relationship with them.
Yes. Like build up to it.
And by relationship, I don't mean like a dating relationship,
Right,
but just some sort of like actual like personable friendship of some sort.
Right.
Before it escalates.
Which doesn't mean go stalk their Facebook page.
Correct. Like, you can have like conversations with them and whatnot.
That's creepy.
I'm gonna just flag one that Bude mentioned, which is don't try pitting creators against each other. So I don't know if you've ever seen this when somebody goes up to talk to a creator and they're like, well, it's way better than that. It's way better than that Ryan Macklin game.
Yeah. I mean,
first of all, here's a rule.
I think Macklin was talking about that earlier.
Yeah,
too.
right. He was.
I mean, here's the thing, right? Most of us are friends.
Yeah.
There are very few.
There
are very few blood rivalries. Very few of them. In all likelihood, if you are talking to another designer, dishing or dumping on another designer, they're probably friends with them,
and they're probably going to hear about it.
And they're probably going to hear right. So,
and that doesn't mean the person that you're directly talking to is going to tattle on you. That just means that a lot of people talk to each other, and stuff's gonna get around.
But for the most part, we're all friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we don't really compete with each other.
Do not say anything that you don't want somebody else to hear.
Yep.
because they're gonna probably hear it.
Exactly.
And don't do it, especially don't do it if you're trying to be cool with the designer.
Yeah.
Like,
That's
oh,
not gonna
man,
win you
your
points.
stuff is
No.
so much more dope than like whatever that, Game X. Chances are, one, they're probably a fan of Game X, and two, they probably know somebody who worked on Game X.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to wrap this question up with
Yeah.
kind of an umbrella over what we've already said to a certain degree. Remember, you likely represent other people and or a brand when you are in a professional capacity at these conventions. You need to reflect well on those people and that brand.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't want to be rolling around being a complete tool and having people go, "Oh my God, that guy from Misdirected Mark is an ass."
Yeah.
Like, that's not good. That's not good at all.
No, that
don't
would
do
make,
it.
that would make me very sad as the
It
queen.
would,
I would be
yeah.
like, no.
We don't want to piss off the queen.
Then the queen has to hold court and then just to chop somebody's head off,
It's
metaphorically
true.
speaking.
Oh,
You
I
say
mean, you say
metaphorically,
that.
but I think Lovecraft has got the plans for a guillotine.
Mhm.
So not metaphorically speaking anymore.
Right.
So at the Misdirected Mark extravaganza, there might be some beheadings.
Whoa, no,
Extravaganza.
you have to pay extra for cleaning. Like, you can't.
I mean,
Thursday night.
No,
Thursday night.
beheadings are messy. Like, they're
I'm a custodian.
okay.
I have a blood kit.
Oh, there you go. Well,
Oh,
All right.
wow.
Well,
This went real dark. So anyway, moving
Wow.
right along.
what was that about? Very few blood rivalries?
just a few. I said a few.
All right.
We're just taking out the trash. There's not very many people.
Yikes.
So, what's question number 4?
Question 4. Okay. What are your tips on being an overall good person at the con?
So I have a couple, one of which we've already covered somewhat extensively, which is don't be a dick,
But
which ties into everything that we've already said, and also being polite and assuming positive intent. But the other thing that's kind of interesting, and it's something that I mentioned because, look, we're all sitting here and we're podcasters, and like there's this funny thing that happens when you're podcasters, which is it's called a parasocial relationship, and don't take that as like parasitical. It just means that there's a relationship in which one party knows way more about the other party than like it's not an equal like
Mhm.
knowledge exchange relationship, right? So that is totally not a problem. But like just be cognizant of that if you're approaching someone that you have been listening to years of their podcast or whatever, and you're like, you're amazing, and then you just like start acting like they should know you just as well as you know them. That's kind of weird.
It is.
It's tough. It's always awkward when you're
It's
trying to.
super strange, and as the person on the other end who doesn't necessarily know a lot of things about, like, it's a difficult situation to manage sometimes. So like, it's not a problem at all, and I love saying hi to people, but like, it just. And I know that I have met so many people by doing podcasts and then becoming friends with people. So like, this is not at all. I do not approach podcasters or anything, but it is like, be aware when you approach someone that like, you know a crap ton about us because we talk about ourselves every day, every week, right?
Mhm.
On air, recorded forever, and people like binge the backlog and all that stuff. But like, we don't know your daughter's name and that you had cereal for breakfast, right? But you
Mhm.
might know that about us. And so it's just a thing that you have to kind of be cognizant of.
Can we talk about that a little bit? Like,
I
break
mean,
it
yes.
down?
I mean, I will
All
keep
right.
expounding, but please
Yeah,
jump in.
So if you are the person who knows way more about the other person, and the other person, like me, for instance, I will start asking questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Please answer the questions.
Answer the question.
Yeah.
Don't leave us hanging.
Because we're trying to get to know you.
We're trying to make it an
Yeah,
equal relationship.
At least fix the balance a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
right? And if for some reason we don't have the time or the inclination or the energy at that moment, I'm sorry. Like we were doing our best.
Yeah.
And the other thing I'll tack on to that is, it works at all different levels, right? Because
yeah.
we have that relationship with podcasters
Oh yeah, we absolutely
that
do.
we look up to or that we
Mhm.
listen to that may not
Yes.
actually know us.
Yep.
So there's never a point where you couldn't be doing that.
Right.
So
Oh, I absolutely do that to people. It's something I'm hyper aware
Right.
of.
yeah, and it's on one hand, right? So it's one hand, it's flattering that somebody actually has listened to all of your episodes and knows so much about you. But on the other hand, when it comes, at you kind of quickly, it's, like you're just like, yes, right, yes, like, that. Oh, thank you, right? You're just trying to do something with it.
Yeah, because it's anyway, it's not a bad thing even, and that's
No,
what I
it's
wanted to
not a
make it
bad thing.
super clear that even though parasocial sounds kind of like parasitical, and I think sometimes people equate them,
That's unfortunate.
it's
'cause it's
not. It's not at all the same thing. It is not a bad thing. It's just something you have to be aware of when you approach people.
Yep.
I totally do it to people too.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm like really careful about it. Anyway,
It's an easy thing to do.
it's super easy to do.
yeah,
so.
I have no idea how to talk to people that I've listened to a ton of. Actually not true. Like there's some people I've managed to like talk to and get to know a little bit after that. But my trick was I just interviewed them.
Right. Well, then you get
Right.
to kind of create
Yeah.
a relationship, but the other thing is like we do have, or like when you've been listening to someone, you have shared stuff with them because you have things like shared in jokes or
Mhm.
whatever, right? You have all that shared content. It's just weird when it's like, there's a lot of times that podcasters and several of the ones that I've listened to will share really personal things, right? And if the first
Really?
thing you do is
You
come
don't
up to
say.
Yeah.
me, if the first thing you do is go up to them, like I'm actually thinking of Cat Cool in a very specific instance as I say this. But if I were to go up to her and just immediately like jump in and get into something that was really personal, like yes, she was sharing that vulnerability with us on mics, and that was amazing of her. And on Twitter, I that said thank you for it or whatever. But like, there's a level of distance and anonymity then. If I go up to her and immediately expect a reciprocal level of vulnerability to me as an individual person, I'm not going to get it because
Correct.
that is not actually the kind of relationship that will create that.
Once you turn these mics on, we are entertainers.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Like that. This is not exactly who I am all the time.
Oh, this is actually pretty much who I am all the time, but that's because I'm a fucking face.
No, it's not true.
I mean,
I mean, a lot of the time.
A lot of it. But all right, I'm going to tack on one thing to this as well.
I want to hear what you want to say about what I'm not. Anyway, carry on.
I'm going to tack on another thing about this, which goes to the entertainer side. Don't take offense if we don't remember a thing.
Oh man, yeah.
Right? When this show's done, I'm not likely to remember for very long what we talked about.
Me neither.
Yeah.
Because
Sure, but I forget one in podcast.
Dude, I can
Just
remember
forget
when I'm on a
the
like
episode.
the
podcast.
entire topic.
Right.
The entire
But-
topic of the podcast.
Right. But the point I'm bringing up is when you do a weekly podcast, this is the last part of the podcast, right? Like the last part is really posting it. But
Yeah.
what I mean is, for us, when we finish recording Tuesday night, Wednesday morning,
It's show notes time.
it's
Start
show
over.
notes
The
for the
next
next
one. Yeah,
episode.
yeah, yeah.
Right?
This
So
one's
the
done.
clock restarts. So if you come up to me and you're like, oh my God, like 50 episodes ago, you said like the funniest thing. Do you remember what it was?
No.
I can't even
No.
tell you
Yeah.
50 episodes ago what we talked about.
I mean, we love the fact that you listened and
Yeah,
you
no,
remembered it.
we
That's
love it.
fabulous. But
just remind me.
Be aware
like
of it.
50 episodes, you did
Yeah.
this episode and you said this thing, and I'll be like, oh right,
yeah.
yes, that sounds like something I would say, right? And I'll be happy to talk to you about it. But just understand, like, once we say goodnight, like, my short-term memory is offloading all of this, right?
Uh-huh.
Like, not into long-term memory.
Yep.
Yeah.
We recorded it. My brain's like, well, if you need to know something, you'll go back and listen. And it's just,
I need room
Dump,
for new
dump,
stuff.
dump.
Dump.
Also, if there's a topic that we talked about, like I won't remember what we said on the episode because me and Phil and Bob and whoever else sometimes send us, sometimes Merwin, whoever, because I talk about the same stuff
Uh-huh.
on multiple shows at this point.
Yep.
We'll have talked about it 6 or 7 other times.
Yes.
So we
Yeah.
won't remember the things we exactly said on the episode, but we'll
Yeah.
remember all the concepts.
right. Also, if something happened 100 episodes ago, it's likely I have a completely different take on it now.
That's true.
Yeah.
Right,
That's
like,
possible.
by-
2 years
2
ago.
years ago,
Yeah.
I am probably completely, like, I may have a completely different look at it.
You never know.
But it's okay. Like, it's okay to bring those things up. Like, you don't have to not bring them up.
Man, we
Just remember that, like, I don't remember.
I love talking about parasocial relationships. It's
Yeah, sorry,
fascinating.
I
It's a
totally
fascinating topic.
Sorry.
sidetracked us.
It's
I'm
all right.
sorry.
Okay.
It's not a
I'm
sidetrack.
gonna just
Kick it to Bob.
I'm gonna keep us on the sidetrack just for a little bit longer.
No.
Just a tiny little bit.
Do it.
Take
Do
it
it.
back. Take it away from Bob.
Take it back.
What
Subtle.
you said about the vulnerable moment,
Yeah.
and the person approaching, and a kind of a caveat to that, like I personally think it's great when someone comes up and goes, hey, when you guys did that thing on the on that one episode where you talked about coming out or whatever, your openness and vulnerability gave me the courage to do the thing myself. Like, that's a moment that
I
know,
agree with
that's-
you completely.
yeah.
I think what I was going for, and I don't know if
Oh,
I
yeah.
said it super well, was more that thing where, like, when people expect more ongoing and continuing vulnerability from you because you
Exactly.
said those things on the
Exactly, yeah.
show, that it is more than the relationship that you have with them necessarily makes you comfortable to give them.
and you can ask for that,
You
right?
can
So you
ask
can
for it,
say
yeah.
like, hey, you
Are
came out on the
comfortable-
show.
Yeah.
Like,
Are you comfortable sharing a little bit more of that with me because it's something that touched me really
Right.
deeply, or something like
or
that?
can I
There's-
share? Or can I?
Can
you
I
know,
share a story with
Yeah.
you that is
Yes.
related
Yeah.
to that?
Yep.
All of those things. And
That's-
hey, what are we doing? We're asking for consent.
Yep, exactly.
Yep, absolutely.
So there you have that.
Anyway, sorry. Yes, I'm
Yeah.
not sure I really said all of those things really well, but I'm
I
glad
mean,
that
I
you
got
did
it,
you
that.
but
did a
yeah,
great
that's-
job.
yeah.
Actually, it was
Eh.
a great. That was a great
Well, thank you.
piece.
It's a good
Look,
point.
I practiced saying thank you.
Now,
Okay, so
Bob.
being a good person at a convention
Uh-huh.
is not just about you being good. Being a good person at a convention also includes if you see someone being bad at a convention, depending on the level of bad, especially, open your mouth.
Mm-hmm.
If you see some heinous behavior going on, speak up.
Yeah.
You see it, say something.
Yeah.
Because the people in the situation might not have the courage or be in the position to say something themselves. You can't let that kind of behavior go. If you
I
see
agree.
terrible behavior, call it out.
You have to.
We need to clean the
I,
space up.
I want a
You
t-shirt.
don't have to, but you really should.
I want a t-shirt that's kind of like that. You know, the one for that always shows up during Pride, like the I'm your mom now, right? Like if your parents didn't accept you, like I'm your mom.
Mhm.
I want one that's like, did you just have it? Like, did you have a shitty GM? Like I'm your GM now. Like pick up your dice, grab a pencil, sit down. We're gonna play a game. Right. Like,
And by all means, as Victor said, if there's someone in authority for the con space that you can get involved ASAP.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
You know.
if you
yeah, no
can't-
vigilante work.
Yeah, if you
Yeah, yeah,
can't
yeah.
do it yourself or you're not comfortable doing it yourself,
Yeah.
find somebody who can.
But sometimes just standing next to somebody
Yeah.
is what that person needs.
Yep. All right.
So I'll be the guy that says this thing. If you're a white male, do your best to understand who you are and how other people relate to you, especially if you're interacting with people who don't look like you. It's easy to forget, and it takes a lot of mental energy, understanding, and empathy to do those things.
Mhm.
On another note, just behave as respectfully as you would in a public space, and if everyone is shutting down around you, then realize you might be the problem.
Yep.
I can't speak for anybody else. Like, I can't speak for Senda, like, as far as, like, being a woman at the convention, because I'm not a woman. So that's what I'll say about that.
Yeah, I remember Senda saying to me something once about sitting down at a table and immediately eyeing up the table and thinking, is this a safe place for me to game? You know, just safe as in, you know, can I hang out and like play this game comfortably without people bugging me, whatever, being creepy, whatever. And that's like not a thing I've ever had to do.
Yeah.
Right.
We've
I've never worried about being qualified enough to play a game. I've never been all of those things. Wrapping this back to what Chris was saying all the way at the beginning. So being welcoming as a GM, if somebody sits down at your table, especially somebody who's like not a white dude and is like, oh, I've never played this game or anything. Like when people say that to me, like, I'm like, oh, don't worry. I'm going to teach you everything you need to know about this game. Like, you know, like no problem. Like, unless I specifically, you know, had set the game for something like super experts only, which I never do. But no, I always tell people like, oh, absolutely. Do not worry. Like this game's really easy to learn. I'm going to teach it to you right on the fly. Like you're going to be great. That kind of thing. Yeah.
They're killing me in the chat room.
They'd be
The puns are bad.
Oh yeah, the puns are flying.
Going crazy, but
I'm going to add on my last piece on that. Understand personal space in a couple different ways, right? So we made that joke before about don't point at onto somebody's character sheet, right? That's personal space, right? That's invading somebody's space.
Yep.
I am a guy I'm a big hugger, right? I like hugs. I'm also 6'2", 350-pound white guy. I come at you with my arms open to hug you. It could be scary. So I don't, right? I will ask, or if somebody's like, oh, I do hugs, I will be like, oh yeah, me too. No, that's our show. Put your hands on. I'm not putting my hands on my head.
Wow.
you do it when I'm not here. Thank you.
Anyway,
Phil hit the mic, everybody.
yeah.
So say
I was talking with my hands.
By the way-
I got animated.
By the way, if you
Sorry.
want to see the pun in the chat room, you'll have to go to the Twitch channel. I'm not going to repeat it.
Yeah.
It was bad.
Anyway, so the point being is like, when I talk about personal space, so one, I'm not going to name a person, but this happened at a con. Somebody we know got onto an elevator by themselves. They were female. Somebody got on the elevator and stood right next to
I
them.
mean, Jen told the story. You could just say it.
I didn't
Yeah,
realize
she told the
that
story.
Right?
Oh.
Creepy as fuck.
Yeah, in
Right?
an
Like-
empty elevator,
Yeah.
like
That is super creepy. Don't do that to people. Like when I get on an elevator, I go to the farthest part of the elevator and usually kind of either look down, like smile at the person, and then I kind of look away.
Yeah, I do that regardless of who's in the elevator already or who comes in. Like I'm like I don't want to crowd your space, and you shouldn't crowd my space. But be cognizant. You get on the elevator and there's a woman on the elevator. Don't do something to freak her out.
Well, it's like when over at Chris's old place one night I was getting out of I pulled up and I was about to get out of the car to come in for the show, and this woman pulled up in front of me and she got out of the car, and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna sit here. Like, if I get out of this car in the dark right now, of course, in black, whatever, like getting out of the car, right, like that could make her very uncomfortable.
Yeah, you're a big dude.
Yeah. So and the other part of this is like when you're on the convention floor, like mind your backpack. If your backpack's super big and every time you turn you're clipping people with it, that's also invading people's personal space. Yeah. Get a smaller pack, figure out your compression straps and get that shit packed down. But again, just be aware of your space, and if you're a big dude, it's give bigger space. Like, and be careful, some people find that intimidating. I think I'm a big teddy bear, but I also know that my resting face looks like I'm really mad. And so people might not read that if I'm, they come walking by and see me.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's fair. So our last question here is what are your best convention survival tips just all around?
Hydrate.
Yeah.
Amen.
Do it.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Just hydrate. It's not hard. Bottle of water.
Senna's drinking water right now.
Yes.
Mine's all gone.
There is every con has water.
Yeah.
Somewhere. Free. You don't have to buy it. Bring a water bottle. Yes.
All right, let's talk about food for a second.
Yeah.
So this is the most the thing that's changed my convention experience over the course of time. One, don't eat a lot of sugar because sugar crash is deadly.
Yeah.
You are especially if you don't have a place that you can get to readily to relax or rest, because sugar crash will just knock you down. I suggest power snacks. Almonds are really good. Certain kinds of granola bars that don't have a lot of sugar in them are really good. And like Bob and Senda have said, hydrate, water, drink it. I would suggest not eating giant meals at singular times, because that will also slow you down and knock you out.
Soporific.
Yeah, soporific.
Yeah.
Spread your food consumption out over the day. I mean, these con days, they are long. Like, you are often out there from, some like 8 or 9 in the morning until like 7 or 8 at night without having a place to rest. Like, at least having a consistent place to rest and just be alone, be around people all day. So managing your diet during the day really helps keep you going.
So one of the things that you mentioned when you mentioned almonds, almonds are protein.
Yes.
Protein will keep you going, like it'll keep you level longer.
Yeah.
So I make it a rule when I never eat an all carb breakfast, right? So like even at the hotel, I will eat eggs or sausage or bacon, something.
Eggs are amazing.
Yeah, eggs are great. I'm super picky at how eggs are prepared, so sometimes the hotel eggs are not my favorite. But in either case, protein will go a long way.
That's what eggs are.
Yep.
Eggs are protein without hardly any of the bad stuff that comes along with it.
Exactly. Yep. My tip is, and all laughing aside, my tip is find the good bathroom. Now, when I mean the good bathroom, I mean if you need to just like run and pee real quick, hitting the bathroom that's next to the main hall is fine, right?
You mean the one that we're about to go to at Origins that is creepy, warm, humid,
Oh no,
and
that's the one
funny?
in the role play area.
That
no, I don't
one's
like that
creepy.
bathroom at all, right? Like that bathroom is
Gross.
unusually hot, and humid is
Gross.
not a thing you want your bathroom to be.
You do not want to be moist.
Strangely enough, at Origins, in some of the gaming halls,
Yeah.
especially like where the war game miniature areas,
Yeah.
like there's usually a big open space towards the back corner there. At least there has been in the past. You just go to that bathroom.
See, I'll tell you at Origins where my favorite one is in a second, but
because they don't get used very much. That's why.
Exactly. So the good bathroom is always the one that's off the beaten track. And especially if you have, so for instance, if you have any kind of digestive issues, if you have issues like with your stomach when you're traveling, like that happens to me sometimes. If you're Bob, right? I just say that. I can say that we've done 20 years of cons together. I know this. You're gonna want a bathroom that affords you a little privacy. A little bit of footwork will find you that bathroom. At Origins, my favorite one is if you go to the A pod where the A rooms are. You go up the escalator, and to the right of the escalator, there's a bathroom tucked back there. It's not far from the role playing. It's not far from the parking, like from the door where you go in and out.
The
and
women's
it's-
room is on the left.
Right, and it's super isolated. Like you just like
That's
it gets some
fantastic.
traffic, but not a ton. Anyway,
Yeah.
that's my con tip is at every convention I know where the good bathroom is. Do you remember where they were at Gen Con?
Oh,
Now that
hell
we
yeah.
don't go to Gen Con, you want to give up the
Yeah, the Westin downstairs.
no second downstairs and second
And
floor.
the second floor, but we found the downstairs one and it was like, oh,
by
this
the
is glorious.
Starbucks.
Oh,
That was
yeah,
the
I know
Cadillac
those
of
ones.
bathrooms.
Those bathrooms
Yeah.
were the ones that were actual little rooms.
Yeah.
with
Oh,
the,
I
like,
remember
full
them.
door.
Oh, I know
And they
them.
had jazz playing.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I
Yeah,
know
so it's
them.
like
That was nice.
Sinatra playing in there.
Yeah, there is.
It was super nice, right?
It
like
was.
yeah. So
Until the one year that
Ross Watson
Ross Watson outed those bathrooms.
outed it. I was so
Man,
mad.
that
at him.
bathroom was bad that year.
Yeah, I get so he put in his blog. He's like the best bathrooms at Gen Con. I'm like, fuck Ross Watson. Like,
Why would you do that?
you animal? Why did you give up the best secret at Gen Con? Everybody else is going to the ones like on the convention floor. My
I know,
God.
but don't even have toilet paper half
right.
the time.
Like no, I'm in the one with Sinatra playing, like relaxing.
And it's like fancy. And
Yeah,
the
it was-
the lighting is like
the
soft.
doors
and-
were like dark, like stained dark wood. Like it was nice.
Yeah, I want to drop an important safety tip in.
Oh,
real quick
easy.
before
When we're
we
talking
get
about
there.
Are you
bathrooms,
talking about
be
the
careful
nuts
with
one?
it.
No. What?
the nuts one.
Yes.
Yeah, do it.
Yeah. If you are doing the thing where you're like using almonds or other nuts,
Oh,
be cognizant of the fact that there are people who have nut allergies,
you could die.
and you
if
don't
you're
want
not
to sit down at a
careful.
table,
Do not kill
especially if there's
somebody.
kids. You know, you don't want to sit down at a table with nuts and then have
You can
somebody
just
go
you
in
can just hold them up and
anaphylactic
ask.
You can
Like,
just
is,
ask,
is
yeah.
everybody
Hey, can
okay
I
if
crack
I?
these? Yeah.
Yep.
Yep, absolutely. Beef
reals.
jerky. No one dies from beef jerky.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, some of us just don't like the beefness, but
Somebody might look at it and go, ah.
I think they make turkey jerky.
yes, they do. But you specifically said beef jerky, didn't you?
Wow, I said it like I said Xerox.
Beef jerky is now the generic term like Kleenex.
Yeah, exactly.
No, the generic term is jerky,
And
but
the generic
okay.
term is jerky.
Beefness and beefness and less beefness in your jerky.
Okay, beefness and less beefness in my jerky. All right, so the last tip of the evening, I jammed two into one. One is good shoes, which I know that everyone has heard a million times before, but it's super duper true.
This
Good
year, man.
shoes.
This year.
Yeah, the
I'm all
shoes,
about the shoes.
matter. They make a huge difference. So just like wear good shoes, don't wear crappy shoes. And then my final one is Altoids, and I put Altoids on here because I am one of those people with IBS that I'm constantly dealing with stress-induced IBS, which is not a problem until I upset my sleep schedule and do a bunch of traveling, which is, like defines a convention, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, hey, Altoids are amazing and very much get me through sometimes difficult times when food stuff gets weird, whatever. Like
Peppermint will
Altoids.
settle your stomach.
Peppermint will
Mhm.
settle your stomach.
Your other-
Testify.
your other
IBS
one-
twins. Woo.
Your other one is
Woohoo.
your other
Do you
one
have
is that
Altoids? I have Altoids.
I do not. But
Dude.
mine acts a little differently, but it's similar.
Well, I have Altoids if you
Um,
need them while at the con.
I'm going to mention the chat room mentioned it, so I'll mention
Do
my
it.
other
Do
one.
it. Yep.
This one was given to me by a person who used to work a lot of cons, like at
Mhm.
booths, which is pack an extra pair of socks and sometime between lunch and dinner. So it depends on how long your day is going to go, but somewhere around the halfway point, swap out your socks.
So, and I have one more thing too, which is Mo says I do Tums, and so there's an interesting thing with Tums. Like Tums are great for specific things, like tummy upset and like heartburn and stuff. They actually cause me to like reverberate more, right? Like if I suppress one thing, then I like sway the other direction, and so like I just have to like be real careful.
Makes sense.
Straight and narrow.
Whatever works for you, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So like, hey, Tums might be great if they work for you. Awesome. Like bring that kind of thing.
Well, there's
For
a
me,
thing
it's
with Tums
Altoids.
because a lot of Tums have calcium in them.
Oh yeah.
And calcium has a thing with acid where it will actually, if you're trying to remove acid, sometimes the calcium will make it rebound and you'll actually get more instead of
Right,
less.
once it wears off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's,
So it depends on what you're going for.
yeah. But yeah,
Okay, well, that was our look at being your best convention self.
Oof.
Hopefully, you got some good advice from it, and when you are at your next con, then you have a great time and help others do so as well. I think we should go to the conversation corner.
I think we should.
Yeah.
All right, let me just hit that thing. That's
Hit
over
the
here
wah wah
somewhere.
sound.
There it is. That one?
Yeah, I like
The
that
wah
one.
wah sound? Not the lightning bolt? Not the zap? Not the electricity?
Zzz.
No,
No, not the electricity. The electricity one, that hurts my ear.
it hurts my ear too.
It's not.
I
So-
appreciate you not giving me that experience.
You're welcome. I don't even have it on my soundboard anymore.
Oh, there,
No, there you go.
Pretty
Magic.
sure. Do I have it? on
No, don't look. Carry on.
No, I don't.
No,
Maybe
keep
it's
Sort of-
going.
Yes, Queen. I will carry on.
So send a
You sounded like the-
conversation corner.
Yeah, we sound like the Queen of England there. I mean,
Perhaps you could
are,
converse.
Are we conversating?
Conversing.
Conversating.
I
Conversation.
said it I said it a couple weeks ago too. Bob,
I know.
once again, I can make up a word if I want.
You could.
No, only I'm allowed to make up words.
What?
No, that's nonsense.
Wait a minute.
Totally not true. But
Like,
you just asked me to say that basically by
You've just
saying
you just become the Queen of Hearts. Or you like start like chopping people's heads off randomly.
Off
Off with their heads.
So what are we
Now
talking
I got
about?
Juice Newton running through my head. Thanks for that.
What are we talking about?
Send a Juice Newton.
Conversation
was an
corner.
artist in
Oh
the
my
80s.
god.
Anybody?
Hey, Bob.
Okay.
Bob, conversation corner.
I don't even know what
You're
Juice
at the
Newton
top
is.
of the list on the conversation.
Oh, we're gonna go in order.
Well, I don't
I
know.
can't.
No,
You're at
I'm
the
just
top of
trying to
the
get
list.
this thing. I'm trying to get this segment going.
I tried to get her going, but
Weren't we
that's all right.
conversating?
I know, but they were.
I am so ready for this trip to Origins. You have no idea.
Woot!
You literally have no idea.
It's not good when Phil's trying to put things back on track.
That's bad.
Yes.
I feel like he feels left
When
out
I have,
that he's not the
when
one
I have
taking it
to
off the
parent, when I have
rails.
to parent you all, that's how we know we've really gone over.
And yes,
Well-
for everyone in the chat room and for everyone listening, I did, in fact, buy an Origins badge. I bought it like 4 months ago,
And we've
Did you
all
get the
checked.
barcode?
and I showed a picture of the confirmation in the Slack room,
Yes.
in the Misdirected Mark Slack room. So yes, I
And
have
did
a
you
badge.
receive the email with
I
the
did
barcode?
receive the
Okay.
email with the
Okay.
barcode.
Thank
yes,
God.
I am set and ready to go.
Man, that was the funniest.
That
That was
was
on. That was on the recap from last year when I
Oh,
listened
man.
to it.
Yeah.
Bob, that was also on your lessons learned was to get a badge.
Yes,
Get a
lessons
badge.
learned. If you
It
think
was
you
like-
got a badge,
We
did
make
better at
sure
that
you
one.
got a badge.
Wasn't the second time that year you forgot to buy a badge for a con? Because you forgot to buy one for Breakout one year too, didn't you? It was
Oh,
more
it was something
hilarious.
at least
let me
on the same
back up.
line-
Let me
on the
back
same
up and tell
lines.
the story real quick for people in the chat room who weren't here last year. We go to Origins. We go to pick up our badges. We're all online. It's not a short line.
No,
We're online
It's
for
not
a
short
while,
line.
and Bob gets up to the line, and there's no.
They're like looking. They're like, "What's your name again?" They're like, Everson. No. They look. They're like, "Did you get a confirmation?" I'm looking through my phone. I'm like, why can't I can't find the confirmation email? And then I'm finally like, apparently I didn't get a confirmation email because I never ordered a badge.
yeah, because you would look through to see if you had bought a badge.
Yeah.
To which case they were like, "Oh,
That's that
you
line
need to
over
be on
there.
This
line."
even longer.
And
line
everybody
over
else is all
here.
standing there. Are you ready to go? And I'm like, no, I gotta go stand over there.
Yeah, we're all like,
They're
"Hey,
like-
got my badge, cool."
We're like, why? And you're like, I didn't buy.
Now
my
let me tell you
badge.
the only silver lining to that. While Bob is exiled in badge waiting line,
Yep.
the three of us went up and sat in the hallway.
Uh-huh.
And I believe before we were done, we ran into Jason Pitt.
Yeah,
we
we ran
ran
into a
into
lot of people.
Weregator and Nor.
Yep.
We ran into
Mike D in line.
Mike D. Like
the Flanagans came by.
right, like-
Evil John Carney came by.
That's
like
great.
everybody stopped by while
Ange,
Bob was in
Ange
line.
walked by
Yes.
Bob
So
was
with a
in
bunch of
line.
her crew. Like
right. So we saw
like
we saw
another
everybody
hour.
Yeah,
right
it was a
while
long
Bob
time.
It
was
was
gone.
not a lie, and it was not a short line.
But I am happy that you have your badge.
I am good to go.
Do you remember the old days at Gen Con badge check?
Oh my god, badge check.
So we would roll out from my brother-in-law's place, and you had to show your badge before you could get in the car.
Yeah.
uh-huh.
Like even when we left here, when
Yeah.
we'd leave Buffalo,
Yep.
like the day before,
Badge
and
check.
you had to hold out your badge so that everybody could see it, and then like, okay, now you can get on. Like,
We did that. I feel like somebody almost forgot it.
yeah,
One of the early trips.
somebody had to go home at 5 something in the morning, get it,
Yeah.
and come back. Yeah, we made fun of them endlessly.
And I may have said, yeah, that's important because way back in the day, we were taking a road trip from Buffalo to New England to go see the Bills play the Patriots. And we got to New England, and somebody's like, you got the tickets, right? And I'm like, and I'm like, you couldn't ask me if we had the tickets before we pulled out of my
Oh.
driveway. The tickets were in an envelope sitting on the kitchen table.
I did that for the first Gen Con I ever went
So
to.
yeah, I had to call my mom on the phone and say, Mom, go in, get that envelope, stick it in a FedEx envelope, send it to this address, ASAP overnight, get it to me now. Because we went like on Friday and we left. So we had time to get the thing delivered before Sunday, before the game.
Like,
Yeah, I left the tickets for the first Gen Con I ever went to on my mantle, and we had to, when we got an hour and a half down the road, then we had to turn around and go back.
That's literally the word. Yeah.
Awful.
So we had a thing where everybody would take their badge, put it in the lanyard holder, and then like tie it to their bags. And it would be like, okay, badge check, and everybody either wearing it or it was on your bag, and then you were allowed in the attest bag. It used to go in that top pocket.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
I've never forgotten anything since then.
Right. It's the worst. It's the worst feeling
especially
ever.
if it's something really important.
I also just will call everything at that point.
Yeah, and Gen Con also did that thing where they wouldn't guarantee.
Yes.
Like that happened to our buddy Mike. He had his badge delivered to the house by FedEx, and FedEx said it delivered,
but it never got there.
And it either got there and it was like disappeared or whatever. But when Mike was like, I didn't get my badge, they looked and they were like, well, FedEx said they delivered it. Yep. And that was the end of story. Buy another badge. Yeah. Miserable.
Enjoy that $60 that you have to spend again.
60. Yep. Yeah. I mean,
back then,
yeah. So
now it's more.
Anyway, so ready for this trip.
Yeah.
Have a badge.
Anybody else got anything?
Do you have a towel?
Oh, we got a towel.
Got a towel. Got a badge.
I have a towel. The hotel supplies the towels.
You should always.
You were making. I feel like you're making a.
I was making.
Yeah. I have a thing, and it's unrelated to Origins.
No, it's fine.
Yeah.
That's what this part's for.
I mean, I know this part is the goofy gobbledygook part, but
the goofy gobbledygook. I should just rename the segment to Goofy Gobbledygook.
Gobbledygook part.
This is free play.
This is the Goofy Gobbledygook section of the show.
Goofy gobbledygook, like anything you want bit. So, I am really excited for Origins, and I have been watching Good Omens, but I'm also really excited because, like, the other day I was listening to a Regina Spektor song called it's called Us, and I was like, oh, and then I sat down and I wrote a game about it.
Oh, nice.
And
yeah.
I'm like really excited about it right now, but no one else has seen it yet but me.
Tell us about it.
And I want to play test it.
Before you tell us about it?
Well, I don't know. So do you know the song?
No.
Okay, so it basically goes like the lyrics are something along the lines of like, they made a statue of us and put it on a mountaintop. The tourists come and stare at us and like blah, blah, blah. And then there's a bit about like we're living in a den of thieves, rummaging for answers in the pages, like all of this stuff. It's got really evocative lyrics, like many of her songs do, without actually explaining what the heck she's talking about, right? So like you get these really strong mental images, and like whenever that song comes on, I'm always like trying to construct the story of what happened. Like, why is there a statue? Right? Like, why is it there? I don't understand. That is the thing that the song does not tell you. Why did they build a statue?
So you wrote a game about that? I
wrote a game that is a story game in which you rummage through pages to figure out why someone built a statue of you. Yes.
Oh, these are answers we need.
Yeah. Well, the premise of the game is that someone built a statue of you. You describe what the statue is like and how you're interacting. So kind of what the emotional like impact of the statue is. Are you touching? Are you being nice to each other? Are you aiming guns at each other? Like what kind of statue is it, right? And then we work from the premise of the statue exists and you know that it's there and you know that it's you and you know that this other person or people are in it. But you don't remember that thing. So now you're trying to reconstruct backwards what happened.
Do you have mechanics for it yet?
Some very brief ones. It's basically I haven't actually play tested this.
That's fine. We talk about games we haven't played tested
all the time.
No,
I know, but
this
like,
is actually the show to talk about this.
I know, but there's like 2 versions of it right now, so that's why it's sort of tricky. So like right now, I was actually talking to Phil about it, and he's like, "No, that's all latency," and I'm like, "Damn, you're right." So right now, I mean, it's super loosey goosey. It's take a book off your shelf, open to a random page, read a random sentence. That sentence is your inspiration to describe a scene that begins the story. And you go back and forth and tell X number of scenes. I'm thinking 3. That create the arc from like, where did you start to end point is this is the scene that the statue is of. What are
the scenes supposed to be doing in the game? Like, do they have individual purposes?
Well, so it's going to be, the reason I'm saying 3 is that I think the first 2 are the setup scenes. The middle 2 are the ones, so the first 2 are going to set up, like, what is the situation between these 2 characters. The middle 2 are going to be your, like, it escalates, and then the last 2 are kind of that merged conclusion into what is this moment of which the statue is made. And then after that, we'll have an epilogue between the two characters, now with the information of why they're in a statue together in that pose that you decided at the beginning, in which you can now resolve whatever that relationship is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it might be a good relationship, it might be a bad relationship, like it might be combative, it might be loving, like depends on what you set up at the beginning. So essentially, mechanically, what it's doing is saying, you're going to tell a story and here's the end point. Now, here are a bunch of random inspirations to create a story arc with, to get, knowing this is your end point, to get there.
That sounds very interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing how it all fleshes out.
Me too!
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm really excited about it.
Yeah.
For some reason.
It's cool. I dig it.
Yeah. And there's a comment in the chat room, which the us is Lenin and Stalin, and yes, there's probably like actual things on the internet I could look up on Google and like find out what that song is truly about, but I'm much more interested in creating the answers to the questions myself.
And letting the art actually just be art that you can interpret yourself.
Yeah. Which is fun.
Sometimes
It's actually
art's
not
about
the
that.
first Regina Spektor song I've been inspired by. The game Connections that Phil and I have been working on for a little while. It's a far cry from like the original Spark, but it was also originally inspired by a Regina Spektor song. So like this is apparently just a thing. I drive around listening to Regina Spektor, and then I'm like, I should write a game about that.
Yeah, that's inspiration strikes from all places, right?
Yeah. Anyway, so that's me.
Does anybody else have anything they want to talk about?
Nothing major.
All right. Well, let's go do some Patreon shoutouts, and we'll go to the after show. So, one, thank you, Senda, for being here.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Super secret guest.
Oh, I'm
Super
so
secret.
secret.
I bet nobody figured it
was
out.
so secret.
No
there
one
were
figured
My best to
no
keep it a
hints
secret.
whatsoever. Such a secret.
Such a secret. All right. Patreon shoutouts: Zach Goins, Troy Sandlin, Will Doyle, the Mad Wizard Merwin himself, Avi Waxberg, Cindy Moore, Miko Froelich, Kevin Menorzak, the Old School DM, Chris Constantine, Eric Mengi, Eric Simon, Victor Wyatt, Brett, the Rainmaker. You should do this one.
Chris Steele.
Sean P. Kelly, Brandon Barnes, Richard Wyatt, and Daniel Thomas.
Thank you, everyone, for listening tonight.
If you are free on Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Andy's time, come join us live on Twitch, where you can chat with the other listeners in the awesome chat room for life and ask us the occasional question.
If you cannot make it to the live show, check out our other podcast, or check out our podcast each week wherever you get your podcasts, and take a listen to some of the other shows on the Misdirected Mark Network, such as Down with D&D, Bone, Stone, and Obsidian, Panda's Talking Games, Cypher Speak with Darcy and Troy, the Gnome Cast, the Weepass, I guess you say Wednesday evening podcast All Stars.
The Weepass is perfectly fine too.
Okay.
So is the Weepass.
You weepy ass. Okay. The Jengu Hustle, She's a Super Geek, and Bonus Experience. You can and should also check out our sibling podcasts, Tabletop Bellhop, The Knights of the Night, and the always amazing Gaming and BS.
Then leave us some feedback. You can reach us directly at mmp@misdirectedmark.com. You could just go to our Facebook group, I suppose. And you can also catch us all on Twitter. I don't have anything witty to say like Phil usually does in that section.
I know I was feeling
Fail.
like it felt a little dry.
It felt a little dry. It was a little dry. Like,
Yeah, like after you've had your protein breakfast, gotten enough sleep, and headed off to your game
Filled
fully
your
prepared
water
and ready
bottle.
to go.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Leave us some feedback.
Yeah. You can go to Twitter at Misdirected Mark. That's the show and the network. You can also hit that man over there, Robert M. Everson. You can hit this guy right here at DNA Phil. I am the Light 101 and Idella Mithland. Pop quiz, just spell it.
Just for the record, I like to hit, not be hit. Just
Hey, if you like what we do here and on the other shows in the Misdirected Mark Network, you can support our Patreon campaigns, and please do. MMP Down with D&D and Panda's Talking Games are at patreon.com/MMP. She's a Super Geek is at patreon.com/SassGeek. Zhengu Hustle is at patreon.com/Zhengu Hustle. And last but certainly not least, Bonus Experience is at patreon.com/Bonus Experience. Patrons of MMP Down with D&D and Panda's Talking Games get access to the after show, pre-production show notes, musical parodies, the Panda's Talking Games bonus outtakes, and other special releases.
Well, this has been a Misdirected Mark production, which is the media arm of Encoded Designs. Enjoy your con experiences this week. We'll see you at Origins. Mic drop.
I told you I like to do the hitting. We out.